Hi everyone and welcome to this week's Monday Memo. Now, while some of us accountants and finance professionals we can be quite robotic and machine-like when it comes to our jobs, the majority of us still have been endowed with five senses, and you know the ones like sight, sound, smell, touch, and hearing. But when was the last time you can say honestly that we used all of these and were aware of using them all to give better financial advice? And the reason why I mention this about our senses and why they're important is because, like in the previous articles, some decision makers, clients, and colleagues and those we deal with have a preference for a particular um, way of making decisions just as much as they have for their senses as well. And knowing this preference will actually make it easier for us to get our financial advice across, to be understood, and to have it received well, so that it delivers a greater impact for them as well as for you. As the old saying goes, you'll get what you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want. I think it was Zig Ziglar said that. And in this case, what they want is to receive communications from others in a way that they can understand, that's comfortable with them, and in effect, it's taking into account their own sensory preferences. So the most common sensory preferences that we know about are how things look, sound, and feel in some shape or form. Those around taste and smell are much less common, but they're still very important to the people who they matter to. And we can identify people's preferences by observing their speech and language. And this then in turn gives us an indication of how we could perhaps interact with them on a level that's more comfortable with them and also allows us to get our messages across and be received in a much more impactful way. So I'm going to give you some examples and see what type of sensory preference a person has in the following words. So number one, in hindsight, it appears to me that we should have looked into the variances and get a view on the scenarios. Perhaps maybe next quarter we can shed some light and get a better picture of what the numbers are really focusing on. Okay, that was scenario one. Scenario two, we need to get to grips with what we're reporting because the board are breathing down my neck and putting pressure on us to get to the bottom of what's driving the variances to plan. And then in the third scenario, in a manner of speaking, there was a lot of noise at our last report. I got an earful from the board and we have to make a better call on where we will end the quarter. So it sounds like that we'll need to be able to tell them word for word what the numbers are saying. All right, so if you guessed it right, you probably would have thought the first scenario was more to do with sight, look, bigger picture, and so on. The second one was more touchy or feely, that type of sentence in terms of trying to get to grips with things, breathing down my neck. And three was more sound and hearing, so that word for word, in a matter of speaking, a lot of noise. So you had three different examples there that if we tuned into, we'd then be able to understand a person's sensory preference and give our information in a way back that's more comfortable for them. And if it's more comfortable for them, that would make our messages more easily received. So now that you're armed with this knowledge of their sensory preferences, how should we use this knowledge to give them financial insights in a meaningful way? Well, if it's sight, for instance, you might already be thinking or seeing ahead a strategy here is perhaps give them some more presentations where you look to use diagrams, pictures, photos, or other types of visual media, showing them how to do something in terms of example scenarios, painting pictures in their mind, playing it on a big screen for them. It's the quickest way of getting the message across, i.e. you're literally painting a picture for them. The second scenario where sound perhaps, and if someone has a preference for this, is maybe getting ideas across to them when you'd rather probably look to give them a phone call as opposed to sending an email. You'd be much more effective speaking with them, particularly if you're in person. Face to face is what I'd recommend there. And if their preference is for touch, then when you're giving financial advice to someone, you got to give them a sense of comfort. So you take your time, you slow your speech right down, give them some time to process their thoughts, and that will be very much appreciated by them. And if you want to take action over a particular item, then you'll have to walk them through the process so that they could see and feel themselves following it. So if you're ever unsure, because there's a lot of information there, and particularly the first times I know myself trying to identify these patterns, why not try a bit of all three? Because you're bound to hit the mark with at least one of them. and at least that way you're ensuring that at least some, or if not, a lot of your content is getting across the net, you say. And that's why we bring guests onto the Strength in the Numbers show, to help you peer over the fence and see what's worked and what's not worked. Giving, when in terms of comes to giving advice and financial insights to others. The guest mentors, they deconstruct for us word for word and share with you their stories and hard-won lessons so that you can digest their knowledge and make better calls and practically figure out and identify more meaningful ways to connect with others and make a bigger impact from your advice and insights that you share with others. Now look, if you were paying attention to what I've just said, you've probably picked up I was using all three sensory preferences. And if you were paying real attention, you would also notice that I threw in the taste and smell preferences as well. So if you want to try and identify them, feel free to listen back. And look, I hope you enjoyed this episode and found what I shared useful this week. And if you did, please let your friends and your colleagues know about us, and subscribe on all the major platforms that we're on: iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud and YouTube. And until next time, take care of yourselves and let's keep on building our strength in the numbers.